Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to the beautiful circuit of Bahrain, and this time for Le Mans Ultimate. My name is Stephen Koenig. Joining me in the box tonight is gonna be Cameron the Bastos. Cameron, how are you feeling?
I'm great on yourself, Stephen, and I'm excited for tonight's race. Tonight is not just about speed, it's about strategy, stamina, and survival. The Raceface.Pro grid brings together two titans of sports, car competition, the revolutionary LMDH prototypes, and the battle-hardened GT3 machines, each ready to carve their mark in the second chapter of this elite sim racing championship.
It's going to be a great one, and especially after the round one at Spa, where it was absolutely close, down to the wire for our hypercars, where it landed up as a three-horse race. Eventually, Crystals joining in with the Peugeot, tried to going and usurping the Italian stallions with the Ferraris, but ultimately, it was a great one. You've actually got the points standing in front. Why don't you take us through who is where in the championship after round one, because there was a bit of a problem that happened with the GT3s.
Yeah, absolutely, Stephen. I need to had the Choice Championship here up on my side of our monitors, but seems to have misplaced them a bit. But that won't be something that will be a bit of problem. Just quickly asking our crew to just pull it up here, and they're busy here. For our results so far for the standings on the likes of the LMDHs, we have currently in the lead Jan Kleinans with a total of 52 points, followed by Chris Tolls in 19, and in third place, making up the podium so far in our championship, is Dewald now with a grand total of 15 points. As for our GT3 cars, the leader there is currently Brandon Kruger with 25 points again, Bernard Barker is in 17, and then Aiden Russell with 15. The BMWs dominating the top of our GT3 standings.
It's going to be an interesting one, and I've got to say, Bahrain, a little bit different to our usual taste. Everyone knows the likes of Spa, but now when we bring in something a little bit different, Bahrain, interesting circuit, lots of fast straights that benefit from the slipstream to those very tight, flowy corners. That is going to really Constantino, especially when you start trying to get through a multi-class grid. This is where you've got to use your head, one can say, especially for both classes that have to be aware of the races going on. And we got to see a little bit of how that plays a big effect at Spa.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Stephen. You said it correct. It's a very tricky circuit with a lot of long straights. And with this 5.4 kilometer circuit, it's with 15 turns in total. It is a very, very challenging circuit in terms of making sure you have the correct move and sticking when you go for that move, especially when it comes, again, to our hypercars. They are very good at braking, but you can sometimes be a little bit over eager and then go along, crash into the slow fast cars, especially if you go into a corner. But again, the drivers will have to be cautious regarding their tires because the surface is high abrasive, so meaning that the tire wear will be a major factor, and the drivers will have to make sure to look after those tires if they want to extract the maximum pace out of them come the closing stages of this race.
Yeah, it's going to be a wild one indeed, and some close racing, I think, we're going to see with all our drivers. That being said, however, we're going to be taking a look at some of the on-track action as drivers are going to be heading out for qualifying. And out on track, going and getting themselves on circuit, and we can already starting to see drivers making their way around the track to show off this beautiful Bahrain circuit. Cam, your thoughts on Bahrain as a whole, as a driver? This is a very technical circuit that's, I feel, is going to push the drivers to the next level.
And absolutely, Stephen, you're absolutely saying it perfectly there. The circuit is quite tricky with key corners and sectors to watch, are specifically turn one, the Michael Schumacher corner. This has been labeled as the ultimate overtaking zone with heavy braking after the long main straight, which makes turn one the prime real estate for some bold moves. It is a downhill approach, unfortunately, so the braking stability will be a crucial one, and the risk of lockups and dive bombs often result in overshooting the apex. And then following that, turn 2 and 3, fast flowing corners directly after turn one, getting a clean launch out of here will reward you with another overtaking chance into the uphill of turn 4. And then finally, turn 4, a wide braking zone and another good overtaking opportunity, especially in multi-class traffic. The exit opens up into a sweeping right-hander, so defending drivers often go deep here. And then finally, the final corners for this ones will be turn 8, turn 9 and 10, and turn 11 through 13, which is the mid-sector flow. So for turn 11 through 13, the midsection, it's not great for passing, but absolutely vital for lap consistency. Dirty here can hurt prototype cars following GT3s quite closely. So the corners that we really want to look for overtaking zones is turn 1, which is main overtaking spot for hybrid deployment and slipstream, which will equal to action. Turn 4 after the turn 3 kink, a good secondary zone, and then turn 11. It's a less common place, but with a good exit from turn 10, we'll definitely see some great action there if the driver set the car up perfectly.
Well, it's also going to be an interesting one because it is multi-class racing. Crystals currently leads out the top of the charts with his Peugeot. Got to say, Peugeot looks so much more finished with that rear wing versus the original design. But taking over to our virtual grandstands, we do see Donovan Lear, head of the LNR console community. He's been going and cheering on all the GT3s. Well, getting to see some of the great racing that the Hypercars bring in. Kleinans running in second place. We got Jean Verveers, Mark van Rensburg, and Dewald Nel chasing down. Jeffrey Leroux running sixth at the moment with Jose McQuell. And Jody Seidman heading out onto the circuit. Big shout out to him, as he's actually one of our very few drivers that is part of our driver cams that we have now available. And there is Jody Seidman, so big shout out to him. Also one of the streamers as well, and going and piloting that Toyota Gazoo. Gotta say, it's quite nice to see the drivers getting themselves ready, but we also get a sense of what tech is being used by these top-notch drivers and some of the best in the country.
Absolutely, Stephen. It's always great to always put a face behind the name. When there's people behind the computer, behind a sim racing wheel, we actually put a bit of a human factor onto these names. How people, well, we're here and we're doing it because we love it. It's a passion of every one of us, and also the wide variety in terms of the tech that you said that being used. We've seen drivers dominate with the likes of a Logitech G920, and then even the use of Moza and Fanatec wheels, where it just proves that having the best form or best gear does not mean that you will be fighting for the top spots. It's all about skills and what you can extract out of your equipment in order to get the results that you need, which will result in being rewarded. So it's great to see the drivers and a big variety of tech that is being used by everyone out there tonight. As you take a quick look at the standings again, Crystal still leading out there with Jan Kleinans, Jean Verveers currently in third for our hype class, and then over to our GT3s. We've got Bernard Barkhuizen leading the way and Brandon Kruger in second, and then Daniel the Hitman de Villiers jumping ship all the way from ACC to LMU and placing him in third position with Baggo Grobler right behind him, only separated by 6/100ths of a second.
Now, it's absolutely grand to see so many drivers moving forward and trying out new things to get that little bit more pace out of their cars. And I'm got to say, I'm looking forward to this because the V8s, the Mustangs, tend to be a big favorite here to ensure that drivers can have a top-notch run, where we will see the mid-engines that generally did well at Spa suddenly now having a little bit of loss of pace.
Yeah, well, it might be all with hot and dry, humid conditions that we have here in Bahrain. I mean, it is in the middle of a desert. The heat will be sweltering out there. So again, brings back to the drivers maintaining their tires and keeping it on top peak performing condition in order to extract it. But again, you mentioned the front engine cars might be performing a lot better. We all know Spa, it's in the mountains, it's up and down, and the mid-engine cars performed a lot better there. We also you as one can also comment, Stephen, how the Honda Acura, well, we call it the Acura, and the McLaren were absolutely cars that were flying around Spa when we did some testing in our racing side, and it also proved to be the same when it came around to LMU. So I think really the heat will be a big factor when it comes to tonight's race. The mid-engines might struggle a little bit, we never know, but the front engines are seeming to absolutely be in a class above its own for all our drivers.
It's absolutely great, and lots of excitement coming up for the LMU drivers. And I know this has been the big build-up, many of the drivers wanting to actually just hold out on this race, and others saying, no, this race. Coming up on the 10th, there is that monstrous update coming through, the driver changes coming through as well. So we're looking forward to seeing that, longer races. And there was a bit of a discussion down in pit lane, as we got 5 minutes to go, of drivers possibly running a longer race next week, which is going to be an interesting one. But bringing back to our current times, Bernard Barkhuizen currently running with a 59.7, hoping to really put in the top number of laps here. Trying everything he can. Thoughts on the matter, though, is going to be a bit of a tough one. Bego Krobler currently sitting with a 2 minute, and Brandon Kruger with a 2 minute. They're very close in times to one another, but Bego Krobler off by 1 second. Jason Farmer down in 5th place is just trying to pick up the pace with that McLaren, and also just doing those 202s. The difference in times is starting to show, and we do have Rob Funner here, though, who's giving a bit of support from the sideline, saying, just go, Jason Farmer, go for the Griffin Sim Racing team. 144.3, however, Chris Stalls unmatched, 1.1 seconds away from Johan Kleinans. Now, these two were quite close in Spa, but it seems like Bahrain qualifying a little bit different.
Yeah, well, they gave us some good entertainment on Spa circuit last week, but now it's again another question, Stephen. How are these cars set up? I know sometimes what we usually do is we just take a race setup, take some fuel out of it, and then run it. But some drivers do have time to spend and build a qualifying specific setup. But now it is who has done that, who hasn't done that. How will these cars react over the long run? Will they be able to maintain the pace? That is the big question. And how will they react when it comes to the likes of traffic, dirty air coming across their nose? And will they be able to maintain it? That's going to be the deciding factor again tonight when it comes to this multi-class racing. And we'll see who can manage it the best, really.
It's going to be a great one, and I do think drivers are going to have to be well aware of everything. You can see the drivers trying to warm up their tyres, like Kleinans, left to right, trying to pivot the car around. Jean Verveers trying to do the same, utilizing all the circuit as Mark van Rensburg. But this also brings in the factor of who's going to be able to have enough in the tank come the end of these 3 minutes.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Stephen. And it's actually a good thing that you brought up there. Well, where you say about the weaving, it's something that a lot of people have debated about. Does this really have an impact on how the tires will be able to warm it up? Will they be able to get heat into that? It's something that's been debated multiple times by not only sim drivers, but also real-world drivers, where they ask, does this really help with getting those tire temps up? It's a big discussion point. It's a back and forth weaving, and that's what most drivers do is just weave back and forth. But another key factor that many forget to do is just brake dragging. That happens when you just continue forward full throttle and just drag that brakes a little bit in order to get the core temperature up and running. And that's the most important thing, the core temperature. Generate the heat into those brakes, get them into the rim, and then go forward from there. And then the side-by-side weaving just gets the outer part of those tires fired up and get that external heat into them. This will maximize the acceleration out of the corners, and as they go into turn one, this will make it a lot more easier for them to get that first lap overtakes done. But it all depends on if these drivers are able to get those tires fired up. It's going to be a bit of a gamble, but we will see if they are able to really do it.
Well, Brandon Kruger currently up on everyone's time with a 159.7, but take a look at Bernard Barkhuizen, a 159.712, 0.012 separating these two in the BMWs, but it looks like Bernard Barkhuizen will not be trying to set in a quicker lap time. Blichnote, however, looking to make it a 3 BMW race towards the front. 0.7 off that time. Times are starting to get quicker and quicker. 22 cars will be kicking off the race, and still, yet, with 1 minute and 5 seconds left of the racing action, Crystals is waiting for everyone to get out. A little bit of bottoming out on the nose for Kleinans as he tries to get that Ferrari in check. The 499P of the AF Corsa, the Toyota Gazoo of Jean Verveers, puts the hammer down, looking to really get as much pace as possible. Last time I actually got to commentate on Bahrain plus Hypercars was actually with R Factor 2, where we saw breakdowns, including a car catching fire. So honestly, it's good to see they haven't brought mechanical failure into LMU as yet. But when it does come, I don't want to be the person that has to test drive that one. That's for sure.
And absolutely, Stephen. I mean, we did speak about. You just mentioned it there. I still recall that race where you did that. I believe it was one of our shortly after one of our early events where you had to jump over, and absolutely fascinating. R Factor 2, the predecessor to the LMU sim that we currently have there. And a lot of people don't believe it comparing the two of them, but yes, they are actually the same studio that made two different sims, but this is solely specified for the likes of WEC Racing. So who knows? As you said, we might get an update soon where the cars will suddenly just combust if the engine overheats. Will definitely add an extra bit of spice when it comes to our racing, especially in the heat of the desert in Bahrain.
Well, we got one driver that's in, Brandon Grisel, who's just joined in. He did set a previous lap time of a 1:48.9, came out of the server, and now is back in to join. So good to see drivers able to get themselves back in, but looking down at pit lane, a variety of cars going and pulling in. Only quite a few going out, like Jeremiah Vitlam at the moment, who is still putting the pace down, trying everything he can to really step it up. He did a 2:03.3, a little bit off for time, but still trying to move his way up. Julian, unfortunately, coming to a stop on circuit, so he'll be waiting it out, and we'll have to see. But it looks like, with only one car left out on circuit, the lonely McLaren in the Inception Racing colours look to battle it out. To our virtual grandstands, though, to all the VIPs out there, we have got the likes of Antonia Gamble, once again saying, how's it? Benjamin Till, also saying, come on, Team Wolf, looking to really fight it out, going and supporting the likes of Jan Bego Hrobler, who is in the Team Wolf colours. So
yeah, some great support from our grandstand here, and it's also great to see some returning names on the grid here. But I'm quite shocked, Steve. This is the first time I've seen Bego Hrobler in a team other than, of course, the Hybrid Racing or Hybrid Academy as I've known them. But it's also great to see new teams joining our championships and fighting it out here.
Yeah, it's going to be a great one. But that being said, qualifying is done and dusted. We'll be getting ready to go under starters orders here for the second round of the Le Mans Ultimate. Let's quickly go through our starting orders of everyone out there. Bring in some of that beautiful noise and sound. It's going to be Crystals, followed by Johan Kleinans in second place, looking to fight their way out in the hypercar class. And they will be followed by the likes of Jean Verveers in third, along with Lionel Clue. So just trying to... It's always fun to have new stuff, especially when you have to wait till they get on the grid. So, once again, still learning. Still a very, very relatively new sim. So let's see if we can go through the starting order. There we go. It is going to be Crystal starting in first with Johan Kleinans in second. They're going to be powering their way through. For row 2, however, it's going to be Jean Verveers and Lionel Clue, both in the Toyota Gazoo Racing Hypercars. Row 3, Mark van Rensburg and Dewald Nel going to be chasing down. Dewald leading, going to be fighting with the Ferraris. And then we got Jeffrey LaRue and Josimo McQuill, who is fighting in 8th place. A little bit further down, row 5 is Jody Seidman and Brandon Grisel rounding out our hypercars. Moving on to our GT3s, Brandon Kruger and Bernard Barkhuizen will look to carry forward their duel, as we saw at Spa, with Johan Bliffnotes and Bego Hrobler running in second place, or in the second row of GT3. Mark Roth, followed by Daniel De Villiers. A little bit further down, Jason Farmer and Theo Gavansami running on row 9. Row 10 is Darren Miller, followed by Dennis Gillett, looking to have a Porsche versus McLaren battle, followed by the likes of Jeremy Faitham, and rounding it all, Michael van Rooyen in 22nd position. And at the back of the pack is Julian Bronze and Jean Mossart, rounding out our 24 starters here at the beautiful circuit of Bahrain for round 2. But we are getting ready to go under starters orders. It is going to be Crystal leading out the pack They will have a break between the fields. As you can see, the GT3s giving a bit of room to the hypercars. This is one of the big things that LMU prides themselves on, having a bit of a switch around. Crystal's waiting for starters orders. We'll have Kleinans waiting to get going. And we are underway. 40 minutes of racing, and it looks like a great run for the likes of Kleinans, trying to battle it out. Stolz able to carry a momentum through, and we got an impact into the wall in the back. And that might have been Theo Gavansami, or was that with him? No, definitely wasn't that. That was actually the likes of Jeremiah.
Dennis Gillett.
Who's, Dennis actually landing up with that bit of impact there. Not ideal circumstances. And we'll be trying to limp that car back and going. But we return to the drivers fighting their way out. Stills off to a great charge. Kleinan's trying to get on the back of him. But the fight that's happening a bit further down is the likes of Jeffrey LaRue and Josma McQuill are now under pressure with the likes of Diervald Null on the outside. Couldn't quite make it work. Jody Seidman waiting to get on the power. Lionel Klue going side by side with Mark van Rensburg. And van Rensburg just getting ahead of Klue as they charge their way around. Brandon Kruger and likes of Bernard Barkhuizen fighting it out for first and second. Blicknote and De Villiers follow suit with the likes of Mac Roth chasing down. He's under pressure from Bago Krobler up on the inside. That mighty Mustang looking to try and power his way through side by side, heading towards the left hand. He's going to have the advantage. Can he keep it? Mac trying to fight him out into the braking zone. Not able to do it, but will still lean the nose in.
Now, unfortunately, it looks like we already have our first retirement of the race, with Theo Govindasamy unfortunately being a DNF, and Lionel Klue already in the pits. Wonder what happened with him there, unfortunately not having the start that they want. And now it's just our lone running 8 hypercars still remaining there. Just trying to find out what happened to Lionel Klue, and I'll report back once I find out what has happened.
Definitely a bit of a frightening one there. Josma and Diervald now running in tow. Jody Seidman and Mark van Rensburg trying to play the catch-up game between one another. De Villiers now into the pits, doing a... Is that going to be a pit stop or a drive-through by the looks of it? Daniel De Villiers now serving a pit stop. Not going to be too happy on that one. And we'll be waiting out. Jason Farmer with Darren Miller trying to battle their way around and continue on. Yellow flags waving in the sectors just for slow cars. Thriller Miller keeping on the back of Jason Farmer, the PWSR driver, looking to put a bit of pressure on the Griffin Sim Racing team driver as they charge through for 5th and 6th in class position. And they got the likes of Julian Brains chasing down, looking for an opportunity to come on by. So great racing thus far. Close racing, however. And now we will start to see drivers opening the gap up a little bit more. We got 40 minutes of racing where anything can happen, and where drivers will have to really put the hammer down to keep going. Klue, unfortunately, a lap down and is actually waiting in the box. Michael van Rooyen also into the box with that Aston Martin. Very lonely Aston Martin. De Villiers down the order as well. He's down into 11th position, and that car not looking too happy as he tries to keep the pressure on Bagar Krobler up ahead. So, closest battle on circuit. Bernard Barkhuizen and Brandon Kruger still fight it out between one another in the charging run, with Jody Seidman along with Mark van Rensburg. So, this is where the question comes in. Where would you like to be? The hypercars, the GT3s? Because it seems like each having their own little trick to keep them towards the front end of the field.
Well, personally, Stephen, I would love to still be in the hyperclass cars. They are just amazing vehicles to drive, really the pinnacle of motorsport for me. But I've gotten word back from Lionel Klue's team saying that he suffered a mechanical failure, unfortunately, in there, and the car being getting pushed into the box, seeing if they can get it working up running there. But unfortunately, we also have another DNF in the likes of Dennis Gillett. We saw a big accident there at the start of the line, him losing the rear wing on the car, and it looks like the team will not be able to fix it, but we never know. Never say never when it comes to endurance racing, well, this form of racing really, and hopefully the team can get it up and running, they get the car fixed and out there. But with the GT3s, the wings, the rear wing on them are very, very tricky to repair. So it's all about see what happens there. But I do believe that Daniel de Villiers did receive a drive-through, as we discussed, for out of position on pits, well, on race start, which will drop him all the way down to last in the order, just in front of Michael van Rooyen, who's still currently in the pits trying to get some damage fixed.
So a bit of a situation there, and for people at home that aren't too familiar with it, you do get these radar bars that pop up on the screen. You are meant to keep within certain pace. You are meant to keep as close as you can to the drivers ahead of you. You're not allowed moving out of the square. It really does help for guys not to be out of position or just going and bucking through the field. That's something we commonly get to see. Closest battle out on circuit, however, Jody Seidman trying to put the pressure onto the likes of Mark van Rensburg battling out. The two of them not backing out of one another, both in the Toyota Gazoo Racing, which have been quite a formidable foe, but it seems like the slipstream not helping this fight. As you can see, immediately under braking, Mark van Rensburg keeping the pressure on Jody Seidman, who constantly has a look into his mirrors, seeing that Mark van Rensburg's there and looking to try and get back into the fight. Another good little fight is Jean Verveers getting ahead of Josme McQuill as they blast on by. And it looks like Josme is not going and backing down from the fight. He's a little bit just keeping it all together with the Porsche, not having as much grip as he would like. Jeffrey Leroux fighting out with Dewald Nell as another close fight currently on circuit. For our GT3s, however, it all looks to be spacing out by more than a second.
Absolutely, Stephen. I've been keeping an eye on the likes of Mark van Rensburg and Jody Seidman, especially on the front pit straight there, as van Rensburg is quite close to the likes of Seidman here, but with these long straights, a little bit of a boost that these hypercars will have is the slipstreaming combination with a hybrid deployment system, as we see van Rensburg almost diving up the inside of Seidman. Seidman covering down that inside for the next corner, which sets him up, pushing van Rensburg a bit wide, pushing him back again behind him, and now it's a long sweeping right-hander, and then it's a bit of a charge. Who is going to be the best? Who has the most battery deployment? Oh, squeezing him almost off the circuit. Oh boy, these two are absolutely giving it horns, almost touching, they're hard braking, hard right, and then it's a long run down the pit straight. Oh boy, Stephen, these two side by side, almost there, side by side, really side drifting into turn one. Now who's going to be best on the brakes, who's going to utilize, and who's going to be bravest there? Almost contact, hard braking for Rensburg, breaks the best latest and gets the move done. Absolute brilliant racing there from van Rensburg and Seidman.
Now, Jody Seidman wasn't going to let that go in a huge run. He tried coming back. And once again, you did bring up about that battery deployment that it gets utilized in the hypercar class. And that's going to help out the likes of Jean Verveers, who's starting to tail in behind. He's able to switch to attack mode. He's able to deploy a little bit more battery, get a bit closer into the fight with Jody Seidman and Mark van Rensburg just up the road from him as they try and pull their way through. Dewald Nell and Jeffrey Leroux trying to fight it between one another. Another little fight coming into play. Bego Krobler getting past the likes of Jermaine Volatham, who is not backing down. Looks like the Mustang having the legs on the McLaren at the moment, but it's Kruger, Blicknote, Roth, Farmer, and Bruns that currently lead out the GT3 field, with the likes of Stills, Kleinans, Leroux, Nell, and van Rensburg running the top five of the hypercars.
Unfortunately, Stephen, you mentioned that Bagger Grobler really trying to fight his way back up. He did start, I believe, I do stand on correction, in the second row of our GT3s with Daniel de Villiers alongside him, and unfortunately just not having the start that he wanted. See a small twitch almost there from him as I'm looking at there from my side into turn one braking. But the McLaren of Jermaine Valatham really is putting up a fight. Started away from the pit in order to avoid some of the carnage, and is paying off for him. And as we see him right behind the likes of Bagger Grobler, but it's not the night that Grobler would have wanted, and he's really trying to fight his way back here now.
Well, we still got the fight, Jody Sundman and the likes of Jean Verveers, as Verveers up on the inside, gets the pass, locks down that apex, where Jody tried to look to go in, unfortunately wasn't able to get it done. But take a look at our lead, Stoltz and Kleinans now on the back of one another. The Peugeot not quite running away from the likes of Jan Kleinans' Ferrari. I've got to say, out of the hypercars, I'm a little bit disappointed. No one opted to go for the BMW. It's a little bit gut-wrenching considering, you know, coming in the near future, they did show there is a new hypercar coming to the LMU. That would be just after Le Mans, and it would be the Aston Martin Valkyrie. They had a little bit of a taste tease of it, and everyone just recognized that screaming V10. But take a look at Devardnell and LaRue still giving chase as they push on for third and fourth at the moment. Devardnell not quite having the pace that he wants to stay in for the fight. Now, on last lap time, if you look at it, so far, LaRue just having 0.1 of a second faster than Devardnell, but Devardnell under late braking, try to bring it back, nearly rear contact between the two of them. LaRue definitely would have felt that and not been a happy camper about it.
No, absolutely not, Stephen. But here's the thing: yes, these are two Ferrari cars. One the customer team, and one the Ferrari AF Corsa team. But both have the same deployment, same amount of kilowatts, same amount of horsepower on those wheels. So now it's all about who can get the best out of them and who has enough to really push the car on these long straights. These straights will be a key part in trying to make these hypercars really stand out to get the moves done. Otherwise, you will be a sitting duck. But now they are busy catching up to our GT3 cars. We still already see them trying to navigate some traffic within the tight middle sector. So it's going to be a bit of a tricky one for these cars now. And I just keep on looking at the likes here. Jody Sederman, unfortunately, I think made a mistake, as he has gotten a significant gap between the likes of himself and Van Rensburg, with John Verveers now slotting in between the two of them. But Verveers is giving the likes of Van Rensburg some issues. A proper, about a 1 second gap between the two of them, 1.6. So these two, the likes of Van Rensburg and Sederman, have been fighting, and this has allowed Verveers to come in with a mistake from Sederman. So from a 2-horse race to a 3-horse race for all for 5th position. It's incredible.
It's going extremely well, and to even talk about our Toyota Gazoo's out there, they're using a 3.5 litre V6 twin turbo motor. If you think about that, 3.5 V6 twin turbo, that is pushing out 670 brake horsepower, then has the deployment that kicks in. It gives it a little bit more power underneath it. It's done really well, but to go and blast away from the V8, the 5 litre V8, never mind, he loses it on the dirt and nearly running into a bit of contact. That would have been against Bagger Grobler. He was able to avoid that bit of contact and definitely caught a fright, that's for certain.
And absolutely, Stephen. And I'm coming in now with a bit of a shocking news here. Bernard Barkhuizen is all the way down in 12th in class.
So Bernard Barkhuizen going down the order. Is that going to be after a pit stop?
No, he's not on the same lap as the likes of our GT3 leaders. From my timing board, he is about three laps down from the likes of our leader. So what has happened here, as we have Josema McKeel being shown on our board as a DNF with the likes of John Verveers? What has happened? It seems like the likes of there's a Porsche, the Porsche hypercar, the lone running Porsche hypercar is in the pits, and one of our Toyotas is also in the pits. What has happened? It's we turn away for a split second, ladies and gentlemen, and we are absolutely just seeing carnage everywhere with hypercars being pushed into the boxes in order to get fixed. But I do have some good news though. It looks like the likes of Rhino Utility team are able to get the car up running, and he's currently just 3 laps down from the LMDH leader and fighting his way back through the pack of GT3 cars. He has not given up yet, but now the question remains: what has happened to our hypercars big P7 and P8 currently, as they're both still stuck in the pits.
Still waiting to get going. Crystal's now trying to put the power down, and Kleinon's going to be following suit. Taking a look at their battery power, however, Stalls is sitting on 50%. We are going a little bit before the halfway mark of this race, and so far the Hypercars are starting to battle with that battery management that's coming into play. There's also going to be the new update that allows you to lift and coast more. That's going to help things out, but now we're starting to see a drop off throughout the order. Something we got to really keep an eye out is who's going to be able to really put the power down, who's going to be able to make it happen. But we've also got the Hypercars now starting to deal with the GT3s in the process, as we see Dierwold Nel making his way around our McLarens and just try to move his way up. Jason Farmer, a little bit further down, is just trying to keep his bit of momentum as he's got Mac Roth ahead of him. Both of them have just been overtaken by the Hypercars, with Mac dropping a wheel onto the dirt, losing a little bit of pace. And that is allowing Jason Farmer to come a little bit closer, and that third place is on charge. So let's see how that's going to turn out. But constantly, the battle is going back and forth between the likes of LaRue and Nell at the moment. Both trying to push themselves that a little bit harder to really see where things work out. Nell actually taking a big look into the corner, couldn't get it done, and now losing out the momentum down the straight and hoping to use a little bit more pace to get in. Unfortunately, a little bit too far back to fall into the slipstream. The 499P Ferraris not having a good time. The 3-litre V6 twin turbo 670 horsepower car, unfortunately not quite having the legs on its sister.
No, unfortunately not, Stephen, but you also mentioned earlier with the likes of the battery, the hybrid system that these hypercars will be running. With the nature of Bahrain, it's not a circuit that has a lot of hard braking zones, so the drivers will really be struggling in order to generate enough battery energy to store back from that what they have deployed. You only have really one hard braking after a lot of speed, and that will be turn one, as you see the likes of Drew and Nal here going out there. But it's a bit of a difficult skill, that different skill that these drivers will need to master in order to get the battery up and running. The circuit does not aid well for the hypercars, and as we see now, as I see now, they make a bit of a move on the outside of Van Rooyen as they try to navigate this traffic. But so far up, also on our GT3 front here, Stephen, we've got Brandon Kruger leading the way for our GT3s, but shockingly enough, in second place, we have Johan Blichnoot, followed by Mac Roth. A McLaren, of all cars, is in the top three. This is strange. We don't normally see a McLaren in the front, as we always, as previous round we saw BMWs dominate. Yes, the first two steps are still BMWs, but Mac Roth is putting up a magnificent fight in order to keep that McLaren on the podium, and that makes my heart happy. As you know, Stephen, I absolutely love the McLaren, even though you detest it. But it really is great. It's so good to see. Well, here's another good thing. If the 720S of Mike Roth unfortunately fails, guess who's in fourth? Another McLaren. So I will be happy either way, but I can't count my chickens just yet, because we still have quite a few minutes of racing left to go.
Well, Bego Krobler keeping on the back of Darren Miller. These two know each other very, very well from GT3 racing in the Assetto Corsa Competizione. Both teams have run across one another. Likes of PWSR, Darren Miller continues to put the pressure on. Bego Krobler from Team Wolf getting right into the boot and accelerating as hard as he can. Darren Miller's just got in the legs a little bit into the slipstream, defends, go a little bit to the inside line, sweeps back to the outside. Krobler looks on the inside line, goes for the pass and gets it just in. Upbraked himself a little bit, and Miller tried to go back for the undercut, could not get the power down, and will have to wait out yet another lap to just carry the tow.
Unfortunately not being able to make that move there, but that does not mean he's done and out of the fight just yet, as he just needs to sit back and wait for his opportune moment to strike, and then he will be able to get the move done. But these two do know each other quite well. He's taken multiple fights up with the likes of the PWSR guys, so we'll still see what happens between the two of them.
Well, taking a look, they're actually closing up to the likes of Jean Mossad, who's just a little bit ahead with the Porsche 992, and not breaking away. Krobler in the mirrors, trying to chase him down. Miller in the fray as well. And a little bit further behind, Daniel de Villiers looking to try and gain some ground. So there is still an opportunity for many of the drivers. Unfortunately, 4 DNFs at the moment. Jean Fears, Josue McQuill, Theo Gavansami, and Dennis Gillett being our pack that was not able to get into the fight. Bagel Krobler, however, takes the fight straight to Jean Mossart, and the two of them are looking to duke it out. Now, we do know the Mustang is incredibly quick when it puts the hammer down, but has he got the cornering? As getting a little bit unsettled, tries to hold the apex. Oh, the two having a bit of contact between one another. Bagel Krobler stuck on the outside now, as it does look like Jean takes a little bit more room to try come back at him.
Oh, contact!
Secondary contact. And that has now closed up the gap for Darren Miller to get involved. Jean Mossart going and flashing a light here saying, sorry, but wasn't my plan. 20 minutes remain of this race. Darren Miller has now closed up to make this a 3-horse race, as he will be staring at the back of the cars, going and putting the hammer down, hoping to close up to the likes of Jean Mossart and to Bagel Krobler up the road.
Yeah, it's a fight of the two, I believe, a straight line 6 Porsches onto the mighty back of that wild V8 Mustang. But now the like of John Mossart really tried to keep it around the outside of Bago Grobler to prevent the move from happening. But Bago, being experienced and as brave as he is, stuck it there and made the move. Yes, we did see some contact, unfortunately, but rubbing is racing, and without rubbing is racing, we won't have racing. So it's brilliant as we see a gap from Bago Grobler already being pulled. A gap between the two cars really being pulled, as he's hunting down the likes of Julian Brains now to get back into the mix for that top 3. A great recovery drive, I would say, from the likes of Bagel Grobler, but it's not done yet. He is still a lap down from, I believe, no, it's not a lap down anymore. My time sheet just updated here. He's really fighting him. Now, looking back at the Porsches behind him, between Mostert and Miller, these two are now really fighting hard there, as there's squabble between Mostert and Grobler brought the likes of Miller in. So now it's Porsche on Porsche violence here. Who will be the best? Will it be the 91 Porsche of Miller, or will be 92 Porsche of Mostert? It will be Manthey EMA versus Manthey Pure Racing. Which one will be the best? Oh, hard on the brakes and into a long... Oh, runs wide, Mostert. Miller sneaks it up the inside, gives him a bit of a squeeze. Brilliant move by the likes of Miller. Gives him another squeeze. Oh, almost a contact. These two giving it absolutely everything. And this, Stephen, is what I love to see. Drivers giving it their all, trying to get the best out of one another. Who can break the best, who can break the latest, and who are bravest in setting it around the outside end corners.
Well, taking a look, Jean's tyres starting to fade away. Gets a little bit out of shape, and this is bringing Daniel de Villiers as he loses the sight to Darren Miller. There is de Villiers starting to gain a bit of ground, seeing his teammate move up through the order. Both will be pushing as hard as they can. A little bit further up, though, it is a battle of the Ferraris. Dievenel and LaRue still pushing as hard as they can, with the likes of LaRue hard on the throttle, trying everything he can to catch up to Nell. Lost a little bit of time through the last sector. Hard on the anchors as they try and bring the power back up between the two. Not having an easy time out there. Not going and putting the hammer down as much as they would like in this race. 19 cars still circulate around the Bahrain circuit for round 2 of the Raceface.Pro LMU Championship. And I've got to say, rather exciting stuff, considering drivers are looking to really make this work. A lot of drivers transitioning this to their main sim. Jean Mossart and Daniel de Villiers still keeping the pressure on one another as they fight it out for 6th and 7th in class. And de Villiers right up on the back, tries to go by, and here comes Chris Stalls to join the party as well as they go side by side. Stalls blasts on through with that Peugeot, and now it is all for Daniel de Villiers. Try to send it on the inside. Can he get it done? Unfortunately not. The Mustang not winning on the brakes, but he's able to get on the apex. And there comes that 911R of Jean Mossart coming and putting the hammer down. That 4.2 litre straight 6 naturally aspirated against the 5 litre V8 naturally aspirated Mustang. I
just noticed something very strange, Stephen. We saw the likes of Bagger Harbor making a move on John Mostert a lap ago, and now from our timing sheet and also from our cameras here, it looks like Berger Grobler has lost some time to both Daniel de Villiers and Berger Grobler. I'm not sure if that is due to a pit stop, but I don't think it is. I think he might have made a bit of a mistake there. So unfortunately, Berger having all his hard work undone. Let's take a look at Daniel de Villiers with Lionel Clue almost being taken out in this battle between the two GT3s of Mostert and de Villiers. Oh, not what a LMDH driver wants to see, but I do believe the tires of the Porsche of Mostert is fading and fading fast as Grobler is closed right up onto the rear bumper of de Villiers. These two squabbling away has brought Berger right back and helped him recover from his mistake. So now will Berger sit back and wait for his opportune moment to strike, or will he just wait for these two just take each other out? That is the next question. As
de Villiers gets the pass. Jean down, and here comes slotting in the middle is our Ferrari Hypercar, the number 50 of Johan Kleinans, trying to go around the outside. That squeezes Jean Massart onto the apex, losing out a bit of pace here, and that has brought Berger Grobler into pace. Looks around on the right-hand side, chasing down, and unfortunately Jean just not having the momentum in straight line, tries to outdo him in braking. Side by side, they go a little bit of rubbing and racing as Berger Grobler gets the pass done, and Jean Massart has to slot in behind, chasing his way through down the main straight and heading towards turn 1. Berger Grobler now trying to focus up to catch up to Daniel de Villiers ahead. Jean Massart will try late under the brakes, down the gears they go, and it's just putting the power on, but unable to get the huge amount of pace it needed.
Yeah, unfortunately not having the pace there, but now it's now where the drivers and the cars will really come to life as the sun is setting and the shadows are getting longer and longer along the circuit. The temperature is going to drop, the air temp is going to cool, the track is going to drop, so the tires will become a bit more back into the operating window if the drivers have not used a lot of the tire already, trying to defend in their battles already there. But looking at the front of our hyperclass car, Stephen, the likes of Chris Stolz has absolutely made a massive gap between him and the Ferrari of Jan Kleinans. This Peugeot has shown why it is what it is. It's not to be underestimated. It is absolutely flying away. 16.5 second gap. And it is a phenomenal masterclass drive from the likes of Chris Stolz that he has put on here. Now he just needs to keep it close. Not as close racing as it was in Spa just a week ago. But it looks like Chris Stolz has figured out the magic key behind the Peugeot 9X8, I believe is the number. Yeah, 9X8. So really, really showing what he can do with this car as the final podium steps are made up by the two Ferraris. As I just switched over on my side to Jan Kleinans, unfortunately having a bit of a moment on the exit of that corner, and Dewald now getting ever so slightly closer in his rear view mirror.
Well, taking a look, the Peugeot 9X8, this is the second variation where they added the wing to it. The first variation didn't actually have the wing. Actually runs the smallest engine out of the rest of the field. Now we talk about 3 litres, 3.5 litres, 4 litres V6s that are being run in the Ferraris. You take a look at what the Peugeot is running, it's actually running a 2.6 litre V6 twin turbocharge that puts out the same amount of horsepower as its bigger counterparts. So where the guys are running 3.5 litres and 4 litres, the 2.6 is putting out 670 brake horsepower despite being the smallest engine of them all. Unfortunately, its best result so far in the FIA World Endurance was 3rd at Monza in 2023 and has yet to have that same success coming back.
Yes, unfortunately the Peugeot did not really, well, the designers and the engineers at Peugeot, yeah, those people, unfortunately did not get the results they wanted. I mean, I still remember how I felt when I first saw that car when they released it. A car without a rear wing, it is unheard of, but they said they built specifically for the Circuit de la Sarthe, which is Le Mans, the next circuit we're visiting in the round 3 of the Raceface LMU championship. And unfortunately, in its first year there, it did not perform how well it wanted. But last year, it did have something they can be proud of. They did lead Le Mans for the first time in a very long time since they returned to the top echelon of sports car racing, which is the LMDH class. Oh, absolutely well done to them, but I do say I kind of miss the no wing 9X8.
No,
I
no,
do know
no.
it's not
I
the
would-
fastest, but I just miss.
I would rather go back to the 908 that Peugeot had originally. Brandon Kruger, however, leads out the GT3 field 3 seconds up the road from the likes of Johan Blichnout, both in the BMW M4 GT3s, putting the hammer down, with the likes of Mac Roth running in third. For our hypercars, it's Chris Stolz leading out the field with Johan Kleinans and Dewald Nel trying to follow suit. Jeffrey Leroux going and tailing on behind, looks to try and make a bit of momentum. Mark van Rensburg runs in fifth of the hypercars, and Jody Siderman going and running in sixth for the hypercars. Brandon Kruger first to the GT3s with Johan Blichnout and the likes of Mac Roth chasing down. Jason Farmer running fourth in class and 10th overall with the likes of Julian Brands trying to make up the time in fifth. Daniel de Villiers out there in the Mustang runs in sixth. Jean Lessard runs in seventh, along with Jeremiah Vuthim and Begar Krobler, who now charges on by to go and see if he can get that 8th place away from Jeremiah, and does so. Gets the pass done and dusted. Jeremiah down into 9th now. We'll have to put the pressure with Lionel Clue, one of our drivers that landed up down the order with a mechanical issue. They were able to get that car back out. He's running 7th in class, but 16th overall. Darren Miller and Michael van Rooyen a little bit further down in 18th, 11th in class, and Bernard Barkhuizen rounding out our last of the runners, 19th and 12th in class. But Lionel Clue has got a lot of work to do to go and try and cycle his way through the GT3 field that will be on the same lap as him and won't be getting the blue flag. Leroux, however, feeling the pressure as Mark van Rensburg puts the hammer down. The Toyota really looking to throw in a big fight here and utilizing that 3.5 litre V6 twin turbo, hoping to catch up to the Ferrari 499P.
Yeah, unfortunately, the Toyota proving not to be as powerful as it was when that we all knew that followed the sports car, especially at the Mans when they switched over to the hyperclass car with Toyota winning the first, I believe, the first two Le Mans runnings with this class. And then along came Ferrari with their new 499P and absolutely demolishing them. But it's still, no matter what, I will still be a Toyota fan at heart, especially after the, I believe, 2016 gut-wrenching finish of Kabuki Kobayashi, I believe, piloting the number 7 car to the line, and then with 1 lap to go, unfortunately stopping dead in front of it. I believe that's the time where every motorsports and sports car fans absolutely just sat in utter disbelief and couldn't believe what they saw. But tonight we do see the likes of Rensburg trying to bring some honor and restore honor to the likes of the Toyota brand name, fighting its opponent, its arch nemesis, the Ferrari of Leroux, trying to get that 4th place and just really prove that the Toyota isn't just another car and is there to fight. One of the smallest, I believe, shortest wheelbase cars of the GTP, with the other manufacturers running a much longer wheelbase there, as we see Van Rensburg stucking into the slipstream on the long stretch, faking a dummy, another one. He can move as much as he wants to, trying to fake out the likes of Leroux into the last final corner, hard on the brakes, best off the brakes a bit as you see him close down the gap. Now, will he have to drive onto the main straight? I do not believe so. Tucks into the slipstream, switches into a better deployment strategy that he can, and hope to get closer for a dive into turn 1 as he makes a move to the outside. Nope, switches back. The likes of Leroux can't cut across to cover a second attempt, and unfortunately just sits back and covers off as he tucks into the likes of Blichnout in the BMW GT3. Now that BMW being a thorn in the side of Leroux as Van Rensburg tries to sell another dummy, trying to throw him off the line. A bit of a lockup from Leroux, and that leads through the likes of Van Rensburg. Absolute brilliant racing and a brilliant move from Van Rensburg, occupying the mirrors of Leroux and selling him a dummy, forcing an error out of the Ferrari. Absolutely brilliant from Van Rensburg.
Now Leroux unfortunately missing that brake marker, and it's cost him dearly as he tries to reclaim a bit of time. But it's now on for the likes of Mark van Rensburg to try and slice his way through the field, as we do see him getting fouled up by the 92 of that would be there'll be the 91 of Darren Miller that suddenly got a mirror full as he tries to continue on. Brandon Kruger carries on maneuvering his way up. He managed to get past the likes of Darren Miller, who's 10th in the class. So Brandon Kruger now looking to stretch the gap that little bit further in the race, hoping that he can get a pass the likes of second place. That is 3.7, going 3.8 seconds down the road. They definitely open up the gap between all the drivers as everyone starts to settle in for the last 5.5 minutes left of this round 2 here at Bahrain for the Raceface.Pro LMU Championship, the season 1, the debut season, and it looks like we are going to have a change up of who's in the standings at the end of it versus the likes of Spa, with Kruger, however, still going to stand tall, and Stoltz, Kleinans, all still looking to keep their way in the fight. LaRue hasn't given up on the back of Mark van Rensburg, as we do see the Ferrari trying to put the hammer down and catch up to the back of the Toyota. Late on the anchors, tries to bring it through, unfortunately not able to get it done, and will have to wait just that little bit longer as they make their way through the infield, slipping and sliding, trying to get as much grip as they possibly can with these hypercars.
Unfortunately, not always getting the grip that they need. And we saw earlier with the likes of LaRue being fouled up by that traffic of GT3. So for Rensburg, really chose his moment perfectly there in order to get the move past LaRue there. But now it's all about who is able to really maximize it. We're into the final couple of minutes of this, and who has looked after the tires the best so they can make those final moves, and who has completely destroyed them in an attempt to attack or defend against drivers that are on the same lap as they. But still a brilliant, well done to all our drivers still currently running there and are able to see it through to the very end. It's always great to see, and heartbreaking for the likes of Barkhuizen, and unfortunately it looks like having a bit of a mechanical issue there with the car having to be pushed back into the box multiple times before he was able to get it up and running again. But he still hasn't given up and is still fighting. Yes, 5 laps down from the LMDH leader though, but he is still only running 2 laps behind the likes of Brandon Kruger. But the guard of the GT3 cars podium in the championship will be shifting around, with 2 drivers leaving the standings for the top 3, with the likes of, I believe, Russell and Barkhuizen unfortunately dropping down in the standings.
Well, taking a look at the climb, Bevel up 3 positions where he started. Van Rensburg up 1, LaRue up 2. For our GT3s, however, Blichnote up 1 position, with the likes of Roth up 2, Farmer up 3, and it is for Julian Bruns, who's got the most amount of positions gained in one race. He gained 8 positions from the start of his race and is still putting the hammer down. Now, a question comes in about energy remaining for our hypercars, and we can already see 13% left for the likes of Stills and Kleinans, who are pushing as hard as they can. For the likes of Dierveld Nell, he's got a lot more left in the tank, sitting with 17. Likes of Van Rensburg with 15, and LaRue sitting with 17. So there's still a lot to work with here for our hypercar class to put the hammer down and utilize, empty out those batteries. Clue sitting with 33% left in his battery to continue on the drive. And once these batteries run afoul, if they run too low, it's a drive-through penalty that will be issued that you'll have to get yourself sorted out. You'll have to get back into the box and get them recharged, sorted out, and back out on circuit. You get penalized for running out of energy in these cars. And like I said, it does add a new dynamic to it all. Taking a look though, however, to our GT3s, Kruger leads out the charge, and you can already see the spacing between each of the drivers. Blichnote now 4 seconds adrift. Roth running 26 seconds adrift of them, with the likes of Jason Farmer 13 seconds adrift. Brian's currently running 12 seconds adrift, going 13 seconds. He's got the closest as Daniel de Villiers to him, 1.4 seconds. The two of them starting to gain a bit of time here as we down to the last 1 minute and 20 seconds left of this race.
Absolutely, it's going to be a final showdown now as the lights around the circuit have fired up. There will not be a power outage this time around, as we do see the likes of Bahrain having a bit of a bad exit there on my side. So that brought the Villiers a lot closer as Clue finally shoots past them, gains their position in overall on them, but not in class, unfortunately. But the Villiers really trying to fight as hard as he can, I believe, with trying to get past the BMW. The two front engine cars really fighting it out. Oh, contact between the two. I do not know if that might have been a bit of a desync, but there was definitely contact between the two of them. So who's going to be there? But again, you brought up a good point there regarding the battery. For the hyperclass cars, you did mention they will get penalized. Now the question will be, who was able to manage it the best? We have run through some of the stats there, but now this will be the final lap as I take a look at Chris Tolls, or just 2 more laps, as he is still in the middle sector, I believe, heading towards the final corner now, which will either start the white flag lap or just be the penultimate lap. We'll see what the race direction tells us. No, still in the middle sector. Apologies from my side. But again, there's now more question about the battery, who's able to lift it. But for the likes of Chris Tolls, he has absolutely gone and put on a phenomenal performance tonight. He can lift and coast as much as you want, save the battery, just don't press anything more than 5% on that throttle, because that will still deploy your battery no matter what. So he's able to just hold in the clutch, if you have a clutch in these cars, and just cruise all the way down into across the line, as he is going to claim, I'll say again, victory for the Peugeot 9X8. If I did just jinx that, Stalls, I apologize. I will hand him my resignation papers right away.
Well, going and running on 8%, the new update will definitely take that away, where if you're higher than first gear, you can't engage the clutch. So perfect if you're on the pit limiter and you remain in first gear, but at full race pace, trying to do everything he can as he maneuvers his way around the Aston Martin of the likes of Michael van Rooyen, that 777, who is really putting the hammer down. It's fantastic to see some drivers experiencing new different cars out there. And the one thing about LMU is that you don't have to have all the same cars. You don't have to have all the DLC. Here comes Crystals, however, coming across the line, taking the win for the hypercar class. Second place will be the likes of Johan Kleinans. He's fought it out. He's done everything he could in the Ferrari 499P. At 5% battery, still puts the gap in for the fight, and will be finishing up in second place, 25 seconds behind as he comes across the line. Dewald Null will take third of the hypercar class, with Jeffrey LaRue, Mark van Rensburg, and Jody Seidman at the moment. Brandon Kruger, however, will be smiling all his way to the bank, taking the win in the BMW, with the likes of Bluchnote chasing him down 4 seconds back. Ain't going to be able to help that out. Roth crosses the line. He will finish up in third, with Jason Farmer, Daniel De Villiers, Julian Brains, Lionel Clue finishing up in 13th overall, along with Jean Mossot, who has fought it out to get where he is. Unfortunately, 7th in class, couldn't quite carry the momentum across. Jason Vatharim will finish up in 8th in class, followed by Bego Krobler, Michael van Rooyen, Darren Miller, Bernard Barkhuizen, and we do have a couple of non-finishers. Jean Verveers, likes of Josme McQuill, Theo Gavansani, and Dennis Gillett rounding out the pack. So great racing.
Now here's a bit
from
more shocking, Steve. Sorry to interrupt you, Steve. It does not look like the likes of Bego Krobler has finished the race. He shows up on our timing sheet as a DNF. Now that brings another question. Did he run out of fuel, or was he not able to just get across the line in time? Although I do suspect running out of fuel or having a mechanical failure on the final lap. Heartbreaking for the Ford of Bego Krobler. Not what he wanted to have for tonight, as he had a brilliant fight back from all the way back, but unfortunately not finishing or being classified as a finisher in our GT3 class.
Yeah, turning into one heck of a race. And I got to say, rather interesting to see how things managed to turn out. But congratulations once again to our winners. And once again, with the track being extremely hot, everyone having to push that a little bit harder to see where they come out, well, it's all about who is able to stay on the gas the longest. And unfortunately, for some drivers, that was a little bit harder to do than not.
Now, unfortunately, not being able to keep it as best as I possibly can. Unfortunately, running into some issues. Most of our drivers there either being a contact at the race start or not having the car just perform as they want, having some mechanical issues there. But still, a hard-fought victory a hard-fought battle for many of our drivers to get across the line and still see it through to the very, very end.
No, that is where it all comes into play. But that being said, though, it does bring us to the end of round 2 of our Bahrain. And still, that goes and changes things up. Still tons of championship to talk about, lots to go on, and we're looking forward to seeing how it goes. But we will be bringing in a couple of drivers to come and have a chat to us and find out what their thoughts on the entire race meeting, how it went, and what was their exciting moments around the circuit here and the beautiful circuit of Bahrain. But Cameron, that race was all about close battles, battery management. It was also on tire management, sitting at 22 degrees. The track temperature was on the warmer side of things. Everyone having to find that little bit more pace underneath them.
Yeah, with the track being warmer than what the drivers expected, it was a bit difficult. We all know that with the track heating up, the tire temps will be a lot higher, meaning the drivers will struggle to get that grip. They will have to overturn the wheel in order to get the car turned into the corners, and which will just take a bit of extra life out of the tires, no matter what. But really, it's a bit of a skill that many drivers will have to master if we do experience some of these hard temps again, if we do go racing in the likes of the desert. So it will be something that drivers will take note of. They will take it back to their teams. They will make notes of it. And they will all be run into simulations that they do and practice sessions they do in the future where they are able to just practice a skill and able to rework the setups and just counteract some of those effects they experienced tonight, unfortunately.
Well, it still looks like the championship is going to be a big talking point for many of the drivers, seeing who's going to be able to get towards the top end of the order, how far are they willing to go. I mean, these are concerns that drivers have worried about. They've looked at trying to go a little bit more up the order. Your take to it here at the Bahrain circuit?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest shocker for me would be the GT3 class. We all know that the LMDH class was going to be a good fight between the likes of the Ferraris of Jan Kleinans and I can't remember the other Ferrari driver now, apologies from my side, but also with Chris Stalls with the Peugeot, the lone standing Peugeot, taking it to the Italian brand. And tonight has been a bit of a shock. I do recall that Chris Stalls last week mentioned that the Peugeot might suit the likes of Bahrain might suit the likes of the Peugeot a lot better with its long straights and not hard braking, so it won't be able to. So the slow acceleration out of the corners won't be affected as much as the Peugeot has a slow acceleration out of the corners. But I think tonight he just showed that the car was absolutely set up perfectly for the circuit and just pulled out. I believe the final gap was about 25 to 30 seconds, so absolutely brilliant. As for our GT3s, unfortunately, not the race that Bernard Parkhuizen would have wanted, tumbling down the order after experiencing some mechanical issues within the car, which will drop him off of the podium, unfortunately, in our championship. But we'll bring in the likes of other drivers that will be fighting there. But Brandon Kruger really holding down the fort there in the GT3s with the BMW, showcasing again that the BMW is a foe to be reckoned with, one can say. It's not just one that it's not just a big beaver teeth car, as you would call it, with its two massive gaps at the front. It's really showing to be a formidable foe for many of our GT3 drivers. So it's going to be an entertaining one, I can say.
Let's bring in our third place to join us in, and that is going to be towards Mac Roth, who put in a great bit of drive out there, did an incredible job in the McLaren. We're going to bring him up and have a bit of a chat for his third place. Mac, welcome to the commentary box. Absolutely wonderful to have you. And man, what a race it was for you. How are you feeling?
Well, my fan went out mid-race, so I'm kind of like sweating right now a lot. But managed to keep the tires cool all race and just drove really consistently and got the third place.
Absolutely hard fought fight. Now, take us through driving here at the beautiful Bahrain circuit. Doesn't seem easy. It always seems like one of these type of tracks that will land up giving you a bit of a smack. In the McLaren, not very favored by the looks of it compared to the front engine counterparts.
I don't know, man. I like the McLaren. It grips up really well out of the slow corners, and it's definitely slower through the high-speed ones, but through the slow ones, it feels really nice. It rotates really nice, and yeah, big fan of the McLaren.
Well, I know someone that's a big fan of the McLaren sitting here. Co-commentator Cameron DeBastos. Cameron, anything you would like to say? You both talk the same language in terms of the McLaren.
Well, first off, once again, well done, Mac. A brilliant drive from you, and you made my McLaren heart very, very happy. Even though I don't support the F1 team, I still love the GT3 car. But you mentioned a good characteristic out of the likes of the McLaren. That is a great car under the slow car, out of the slow corners. Well, it's kind of counteracting what I said. I do know that some of the GT3s break a bit more harder, I believe, compared to the likes of our LMDHs. But how did you find the start of that race, really? From our side, from outside of the car, it looked like it was chaotic on that pit straight with cars going everywhere and unfortunately collisions happening.
Yeah, well, first of all, before the even lights went out, we had chaos. They got rear-ended in the formation, which is less than ideal, but I didn't take any damage, which was good. Then some of the cars in front of me had drive-throughs, and once that happened, I knew where I kind of was pace-wise past qualifying, and I knew I have a good chance at podium if I just drove clean. So just kind of kept it out of people. Did have a little bit of an incident with a Mustang out of one of the hairpins, but overall I managed to keep it clean, didn't take a lot of damage, and just drove it through to the end.
Absolutely great stuff. Well, Mac, before we let you go, anything you would like to say to all our sponsors here at Raceface.Pro, to all the virtual grandstand that's been cheering on in the blazing sun, and to all the drivers and teams out there?
Yeah, I just like to say, what the fuck is car?
Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, absolutely great stuff being done, and well done to Mac for that phenomenal drive, scoring third place.
Thank you, guys. Have a good night.
You too. Absolutely great stuff. Well, that being said, it was just all about the pace out there, Cam, and many of the drivers having to push that little bit harder. Second place, however, goes to the likes of Johan Bluknoot, who put himself out towards the sharp end of the field. Mr. Bluknoot, welcome to the commentary box, and well done on a stellar run through to the top of the order. How are you feeling?
Yeah. Hi, Steven. Hi, Mr. DeBastos. How are you all doing? My nerves are... I don't know what to say. It's all over the place. It's a whole different game, not starting from the pits, you know. In the punched up cold tires, I almost took out the whole 3 or 4 cars in front of me, but managed to keep it out of them.
Now, take us through the race. It was extremely hot out there. You looked like you were out of the top 3 running for quite some time. Slowly started to make up some ground towards the end of the race. Was the BMW starting to come alive towards the end of the race for you?
Yeah, I just try to keep with Brandon them, and I see they go faster. I like, let me try and go a bit faster, and it helped me. And then Brandon, I think he pushed hard a bit and got some flat spots on his wheels. Started to struggle with braking, and that gave me the chance to catch up with him.
Great stuff. Well, Cameron, while we've got Johan Bluknoot in, anything you'd like to ask?
Well, yeah, actually, Stephen, there as well. Johan, with two rounds now down within the season, it looks like the BMW is the car to be for this championship. Do you believe that it was only the luck of the draw with these first 2 rounds, or do you think that the BMW might be the one car that's going to take the championship? Either, well, it's definitely going to take the championship in both the manufacturer's one or only in driver's one. And how do you think it will perform in the likes of Le Mans?
It was very hard to make a decision taking the BMW over the Mustang because, yeah, I'm a diehard Mustang fan. And as far as I've gone, it's proven the point to impress me every time I go to a track and put some time with it. I do think on Le Mans we might end up short on the straight line speed with the Mustang, but I think we can pull it through, taking the Manufacturers' Cup as well.
Well, you can never say never, really. I mean, we did see last year the BMW being quite a formidable foe in both RL, well, in the RL Le Mans race. So I believe with some time and some patience, you might extract some extra pace down that long back straight. Well done and good luck with the next round of the championship.
Cool. Thank you, guys. Have a good night.
Well, before we let you go, anything you'd like to say to all our partners here at Raceface.Pro, to the virtual grandstand that cheered you on in the blazing sun, and also to all the drivers and teams that were battling out in the Le Mans Ultimate Field?
I just want to say thanks to all the sponsors making this happen. Some Cave, SPR, Rhino Utility, and thanks to the guy who threw his hot dog on my windscreen going past the grandstands. I saw you.
There we go. There we go. Now we got to go find that guy because he's got more. Absolutely fantastic. Johan Blicknight to give us a bit of a chat there. Fantastic stuff. That being said, though, we have to start towards our hypercars, and let's bring in Johan Kleinans in the Ferrari 499P. Johan, welcome to the commentary box. This time, however, second place for you. How are you feeling?
Good. Hi. Good evening. No, honestly, this race was just damage imitation. Chris is super fast here, as you saw. So it was just all about managing and keeping the second for me. So I'm happy. Had a few sketchy moments, banned once or twice, but we're here. So I'm happy.
Now, navigating the traffic, Bahrain circuit, lots of straightaways. Did you find it a bit easier than the likes of
No, Spa is for sure easier. There's a bit more space, and with all the kind of short states in between, it's a bit easier to find your way through. Where here with the like the super tight slow corners, especially into like turn 1, T4, it's just awkward. So if you catch someone in the second sector, you just have to be patient, and it feels bad. But must say the GT3s this week they managed incredibly well. They kept to the lines. It was better than last week. Let me tell you that. So no, happy.
Absolutely great stuff. Well, that being said, another Ferrari fan joining us, Cameron Bastos.
Ferrari fan of all sorts. Now Steven is trying to poke a bear, and he knows that that's not something good. Well, I do love the 499P and how it looks and its absolute dominance. But last week we saw an absolute the two top spot lockout for the podium in the Ferraris. Now tonight you did mention the likes of the Peugeot 9X8 just going on and putting a masterclass, putting about 25-second gap to the likes of you and Devil now. Do you really assume that the dominance of the Ferrari in this championship is over? Or is it just that this car suited the 9X8 suited a bit more to the Bahrain circuit?
Look, it's tough. Truthfully, like Chris is actually just a bit faster at this point, for sure. The Peugeot in this race, he normally runs much higher downforce than we do, so he's able to pull gaps in the middle sectors, and I think it helps with getting through the traffic as well. So he just did a super consistent race, and he was faultless. There are some better tracks for me coming up. There's some worse tracks for the Peugeot coming up, so we can only hope.
The luck of the draw, you say. Chris Stall's got a bit lucky tonight with the likes of the Peugeot and how it was running. But we're looking forward to seeing you back dominating. Well, hopefully soon at the likes of Le Mans, bringing glory again to the Italian brand there. But before we let you go, do you have anything you'd like to say to your fans, people in the grandstand, to commentate? You can say something to the commentators as well. Give a little appreciation to us, but also to your competitors out there and their teams.
Yeah, no, thanks for the race. Thanks for keeping it clean, everyone. I think it was a well-managed race all around. Good job, Chris. Of course, we're teammates, but we also compete against each other in this case. So I'm super happy with the 1-2, and we'll just keep it going.
Well, thank you very much there, Jan Kleinans there, and congratulations on that second position there. And now finally we are bringing in Chris Stalls, the winner of our GTP class, the leader with the baguette, showing us that the French are not down and out just yet. Crystals, welcome to the commentary box, and well done on an absolutely phenomenal victory out there at the Bahrain International Circuit. Walk us through your race and just walk us through how you're feeling at this point in time.
Thank you so much, guys. Yeah, I mean, it was a good race. Really happy with the pace. I haven't had the best of luck at Bahrain until now. I've always felt like I was quick here, but just never had a good race. So happy to finally put it together and get the win. Yeah, I think it's a track where qualifying matters a lot. So part of the job was done in qualifying. And then the next part is just because of the Peugeot straight line that's a little bit bad. I just knew that I needed to get a good launch to make sure that I'm still leading after turn 1. After that, I could just use the Peugeot's corners to maybe build a gap in the middle sector. And from there on, it was just management.
Well, you mentioned saying that the car is struggling in a straight line, but I would rather argue with that one tonight. They actually absolutely showed the car was a flying rocket down the straights, and you were just managing the traffic tonight absolutely phenomenally well. And yeah, I mean, we're heading now to a circuit which is probably known for one of the longest straights in sports car racing, Circuit de la Sarthe, Le Mans. Do you think that the Peugeot will be hit a lot more there, or do you think that you might be able to change some of the setup? We heard earlier from the likes of Jan Kleiner saying that you were running a bit more downforce, I believe, on the car to make it a bit to make up for the slow top end speed in the midsection. Is that something you're going to factor in when you head to Le Mans, with the bendy twists and everything that makes up that phenomenal circuit?
Yeah. So I mean, the Peugeot is. It's not inherently slow. It is a car that just likes to run more downforce, like Jan mentioned. So, yeah, for the first 2 tracks, even at Spa, I was piling on the downforce to make up the time in the middle sectors, and not really worry too much about the overall straight line speed. At La Sarthe, it will definitely be a case of trimming the car out just because there are so many straights. The problem is you can trim it out, but the Peugeot just tends to get a little bit twitchy then in those high speed corners towards the end of the track. So we'll see how it goes. I don't expect to be as strong there, but we'll give it our best shot.
Well, you got a week to figure out what makes the Peugeot tick, and I'm sure you will get it solved there. But Stephen, any questions from your side for our GTP, LMDH race winner, Crystals?
Just well done, congratulations, and looking forward to seeing what you can do at Le Mans, and still looking forward to seeing whether we're going to be running a little bit of a longer race versus a shorter race at Le Mans, considering it is the Le Mans weekend. Everyone's going mad for the 24-hour. That's absolutely great stuff. Anything you would like to say to all the virtual grandstand out there cheering on from the sidelines, to all the Raceface.Pro sponsors joining us this season, as well as all the drivers and teams on the circuit?
Yeah, I mean, thanks to everyone who's watching on the streams, and also all the competitors and you guys making the streams possible, and the sponsors. So yeah, a big shout out to those guys. And yeah, I just want to also say thanks to Jan. He's obviously a Delta Negative teammate, so it's another 1-2, and yeah, he keeps pushing me to do the best I can. So yeah, thanks to him as well.
Absolutely great stuff. Crystals of Delta Negative taking the win here in the GTP class. That being said, though, Cameron, we head over looking at Le Mans next weekend. Next week it's going to be some great racing. Your takeaway on the racing that we have just witnessed, and how we think this is all going to work out?
Well, Stephen, it's never really knowing what's going to happen next, which makes this racing so exciting, and I'm eager to see what's going to happen next week. Yes, we're heading into Le Mans weekend next week with a run-up with both real life and in the sim. But before that, we have the 24 hours also happening in another competitive sim, so good luck to everybody running out there. But I'm more excited about what's going to happen at Le Mans. It's a circuit that I absolutely love. It made me fall in love with endurance racing, and to see these drivers going to go out out there and battle it out. Yes, going to be a longer format, which is going to be absolutely fantastic. With the length of Le Mans, it's going to aid a lot more to some of the action happening. Going to be crucial overtaking points in terms of the Tete Rouge run up there, who's got to carry enough speed, and then also the fast bendy corners of Porsche curves. I'm eager to see what's going to happen. It might be something that the likes of our top runners falling a bit back, but it does not mean that the championship is over. So if for those drivers, if they do feel they not have the pace, just go along for the ride. Enjoy the absolutely beautiful scene that is at Le Mans and that it has to offer, and just enjoy it. I do hope that we can get some nighttime running. I'm not gonna lie, I absolutely love nighttime running around Le Mans, and for the championship I think it's going to be something extra special, not just for us as commentators, but also for our viewers and for our drivers. So really looking forward to that and the championship.
Well, that being said, a massive thank you to our sponsors, the like of Virtual Motorheads. Take a look out on YouTube for him, Simulator Cave, SBR, and Rhino Utility for making the season work. A big thank you to my co-commentator, likes of Cameron DeBastos, joining in the commentary booth, and a massive thank you to you all, the race fans, the petrol heads. Enjoy the racing. If you're racing in the iRacing Nürburgring 24-hour, go and have a bit of fun. Make sure you do a lap for the two of us. They're going to be racing, and enjoy the upcoming races with the likes of Thursday with Seto Corsa Competizione. From myself, Stephen Koenig, and Cameron DeBastos from the THT Productions booth, we'd like to say thank you very much. Have a good evening, and like always, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, everybody.